Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show. On today's video, I'm going to talk about the Giants starting rotation and the direction it appears that they are headed as they, continue through the offseason and go towards the 2025 season. Where, after the Corbin Burns news dropped, he signed with Arizona, obviously. There was a tweet that, or Blue Sky, whatever you want to call it, that Andrew Baggerly sent out where he said, "Where do the Giants pivot following Burns to Arizona?" Buster Posey responded via text, "We believe in our young arms and feel like they are in a position to take some big steps forward. We'll continue to look on the offensive side for players that give us a chance to score runs in multiple ways." I want to focus on the first part of this. We've kind of talked about the offense and some of the different guys that they could go after. I'm going to leave that for today's video, and we're gonna focus on the very first part of that, where they are talking about their belief in their young arms and going that route. Before I do that, though, I do want to say thanks to everybody. We're getting closer to 1,300 subscribers. It's still about 65% of the people that watch aren't subscribed, so if you do enjoy the content, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's doing a lot for channel growth. We've been getting just amazing support this offseason from you guys. So appreciate a lot of that. When we do get to 1,500 subscribers, we will do another giveaway. So, as we get closer, look forward to getting to do another one of the giveaways. It was a ton of fun last time. So going back to this comment, from just a roster building standpoint and everything, like there's a lot of sense that does come from this when you look at what the Giants currently have in their system. If I look at what they have in San Francisco and Sacramento, just in the majors and in AAA, they currently have about 10 young starting pitching prospects or players that have been in the majors. So you're looking at Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, Landon Roop, Mason Black, Tristan Beck, Keaton Wynn, Trevor McDonald, Carson Wisenhunt, Carson Seymour, and Carson Ragsdale. So of those 10 players, only one of them is not currently on the active or currently not on the 40-man roster, and that's Carson Wisenhunt, who will need to be added after next season. And obviously, this is assuming no trades or anything. So I can certainly understand where the team is coming from when they say, we want to figure out what we have in these guys. We believe in these guys. There's a lot of potential in that group. And I mean, I would agree with that. There is a lot of potential, especially guys like Harrison and Birdsong really have front of the rotation potential. I would say Wisenhunt kind of has that front end potential because of how good his changeup is. They have their flaws, mostly control when you look through the different guys on that list. Other guys like Roop, maybe a Beck or a Black, they kind of have mid-rotation potential. Some of those guys I think are better fitted for the pen. Guys like Keaton Wynn. I think Trevor McDonald, I have concerns with his his throwing motion. I've brought it up many times in the past where I'm not convinced that his arm will last over full seasons when he throws, 150 plus innings. I have a lot of concerns with that. But he does have just a nasty fastball and slider. I think he'd be amazing out of the pen. Some of those guys I think could be really good out of the pen. Like I mentioned, Wynn with his splitter, and he throws the high 90s. Guy like Carson Ragsdale, who's got some pretty nasty stuff. He could be really good out of the pen. And then, a few guys that maybe late in here, like back of the rotation with Beck and Mason Black, and Carson Seymour's got a little bit of upside too as well. So some varying levels of potential when you look at that list. But I think the biggest concern, and this is why so many of us have been saying they really need to go get another person for the rotation, to me, is the innings. You look at what these pitchers have done. And it's going to take me a minute to get through this, but I'm going to run through each guy of what they've thrown for innings in the last 3 seasons. And this is across all levels. Some of them, Hayden Birdsong, this includes like college for him. But this is for the last 3 years, their total innings pitched. 2022, Kyle Harrison threw 113 innings, threw 102 and a third in 2023, and then 124 and a third last season. Hayden Birdsong threw 74 and 2/3 in 2022, 102 thirds in 23, 129 and a third innings of last season. Landon Roop, 107 and a thirds in 2022, 31 innings in 23. He had a back injury, 76 and 2/3 last season. Mason Black, 112 in 2022, 123 and 2/3 in 23, 120 and 2/3 in 24. Tristan Beck, 111. I mean, I'm going to speed this up. Tristan Beck, 111 and a third in 22 was his career high. Keaton Wynn threw 108 and 22. That was his career high. Trevor McDonald, 101 and a third in 2022. That was his career high. Carson Whisenhunt threw 109 and 2/3 innings last season. That's his career high. Carson Seymour, 134 and a third. So he's actually one guy. He's a bit on the older side, though, but he's one guy that's actually thrown a decent amount of innings in the minor leagues at this point. And then Carson Ragsdale threw his career high last season with 120 and 2/3. So the concern, the reason for me that this is such a major concern is because we're going to go back and look at what the Giants starting pitchers have given them for innings over the last 3 years. In 2022, the starting pitchers threw 783 innings. That was 26th in the major leagues for innings out of your starting pitching. In 2023, when admittedly they kind of had 2 starters and that was about it for the season, they got 729 and a third innings out of their starting pitchers, which was dead last in the major leagues. Last season, when they went into the year thinking that they had filled out their rotation, putting guys like, Harrison was in the rotation. They signed Blake Snell. They, put Jordan Hicks in the rotation. They knew Robbie Ray was going to be in the second half, but they did all these things to try and have more, of a traditional rotation and fill it out with starters. They threw 778 and 2/3 innings, which was a lot more than 2023, but it's still 29th in the major leagues. So in the last 3 years, they have not finished above 26 in the major leagues in innings. And what have we seen the last 2 years is, in particular, when they've been almost last, is a bullpen that's been overly taxed, and it either falls apart early in the year like it did last year, or it fell apart at the end of the year like it did in 2023. So you've got to find a way to get innings out of your starting pitching consistently. Now, right now you have Webb, who's going to give you his 200 probably. He'll probably give you his 200 innings. You have Robbie Ray, who I'm personally of the belief will give you at least 160. I think with him being healthy, fully healthy going into this offseason, not having to rehab, not having to try and, regain his feel for his pitches coming off Tommy John, I think with a full offseason and everything, he's going to give you at least 160, 170 innings next season. I actually am a believer that you're going to be able to rely on that. Now, how good are those innings? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I think if he's healthy, he's going to give you a good amount of innings. But you're potentially going to have to fill out the rest of your rotation with 3 young guys. And I mean, I'm fine with it, and I understand it from a needing to develop and seeing what we have. And, if they're trying to grow this team and build a core, and they're understanding that, hey, the playoffs are unlikely next season, I can see how it makes a lot of sense to try and figure out what you have. But there's a trickle down effect to this when you have a bunch of guys that haven't thrown more than 120 to 130 innings at any point in their career. When you're all of a sudden trying to expect 3 guys to make a jump to, and I mean, I set the bar low. If you watch the New Year's resolution show, I said I want 5 guys with at least 140 innings. And the reason is, you do the math, 5 innings for 32 starts is 160, assuming that they're going to need to skip a start or 2, or guys get hurt and they end up on the IL for 10, 15 days. I put the benchmark at 140. So do I think this team can fill out 96 starts? Because that's 3 spots. 96 starts with the list of 10 guys here? Absolutely. I think that's reasonable. The problem is, though, if they're only going 5 innings or 4 innings in each of these starts, your bullpen's going to be overtaxed. So the trickle down is going to be your bullpen's just trashed for most of the season. And yeah, some of these guys are going to be in bulk roles or whatever we want to call them. So they'll fill out a different, a decent amount of innings coming out of the pen, where, maybe it's a blowout and they give you 2 or 3 innings. Maybe it's, a guy just throws a ton of pitches. Kyle Harrison, he's been prone to having like 80 pitches through 3 innings because he's struggling with his command. Some of these guys, have a short outing, you might have to go to one of these guys, whether Tristan Beck maybe comes out of the pen and gives you 3 innings. Yeah, I understand you're going to get innings out of some of these guys in kind of bulk roles, but if you're consistently only getting 4 or 5 innings, max 6 out of 3 spots of your rotation, and maybe even 4, because I don't know if Robbie Ray is going to be the most reliable for getting deep into games. I think he's usually pretty durable and he gets through a good amount of innings throughout his career, with the exception of the Tommy John surgery. So, it's doable, but it's just really risky, and it has the potential to just completely blow up in your face if these guys don't develop and they can't, make progress and get through innings. Like it can get really, really ugly where the pen gets overworked, the all of a sudden they can't stop anything and you're just getting blown out day after day. And these guys are gassed in August. I have a lot of concerns, and that's kind of why a guy like Corbin Burns was such an attractive potential guy to bring in, because he does get through a lot of innings. He would have given you he would have given you 190 plus innings with Logan Webb. And then when you get 160 plus out of Robbie Ray, suddenly you're looking at only 2 spots in the rotation where you're going, okay, we can afford if we only get 140 innings out of those spots. Right now, it seems like a risk if you're going to even get that many innings out of those 3 of your spots. And, what do those innings look like? I don't know. But, conversely, I don't want to go through this whole thing saying like, oh, it's going to be bad, everything. These guys do have a lot of potential. I do think Harrison, he would have easily cleared 140 innings last season had he not gotten injured. I think Birdsong, you see 129 out of him last season. I think he'll easily jump over 140 this season. Guys like Roop, I have some concerns on whether or not he can do it right now. It might be a couple years away. There is the potential for these guys to be really good. And if they are really good and you have a lot of, good, solid young starting pitching, that does wonders for your ability to, spend money elsewhere or trade from this group. If you do feel really confident in like 3 of these starters, you can trade from the rest of them to try and acquire bats. I mean, they could do that now. They don't necessarily have to wait, but it does give you a little more freedom, especially when you have guys like Joe Whitman, who's probably going to be in Double-A next season, and others that are, starting pitching coming up through the system. Bresnahan, they just got, Josh Bostic. They have some nice young electric arms down in the lower levels that have some nice potential. Jack Choate, I really like him from the left side. Bertrand, they have a lot of young pitching that's coming on, that's on its way up. So there are definitely guys with potential. So I don't want to sit here and say this is only a negative, because there is absolutely potential for this to work out really nicely. But I just have a lot of concerns with where the innings are going to come from, at the end of the day. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully, they do address the offense. For if you guys want our thoughts on kind of who they should be pursuing there, go check out from the live show. We talked a lot about that part of it, because we did a hypothetical. If Corbin Burns signs elsewhere, where do they go? And of course, during the live show, he signed with Arizona, so you can kind of see that whole situation evolve. But let me know what you guys think. I don't know when the next video is for sure. We'll definitely be putting out a live show on Friday. I may, depending on what happens in the next couple days, if there's a little bit of news, hopefully I'll be able to drop another video in the next couple days as well. So appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon, and go Giants.